is going to be very straightforward. I'm not going to give you too much information in terms of emission data or anything like that. I think Mr. Lee did that. I spoke to a couple of the students, and they told me that he scared them pretty badly, so I'm not going to be doing that right now. So what I'm going to try to show you today is how the applications look. Most of you guys are in your junior, sophomore year, right? How many of you guys are seniors? Okay, so how many of you guys are juniors? Yeah, so the majority of you guys are in your, you guys are rising juniors. So you guys haven't really looked at the applications yet. Even the seniors really haven't started looking at it yet. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to give you guys a preview of what the applications look like, so you can be prepared so that you can actually fill these things out correctly. So if you guys can look, the slides, the notes that you have in front of you are just basic breakdown of what the slides are going to look like. But a lot of the things that I'm going to be doing today will be PDF and online based. So if you can take notes, and maybe you can go home and look it up yourselves. All right, so just to get into it, we have an hour together, so I want to make sure that I give you as much information as possible. There are basically 4 different types of applications that you could potentially use. The first one, if you're interested in Cal State, there's the Cal State application. There's the UC applications. There's the Common application. Now, the Common application is used basically for different types of universities. It can be public universities, private universities, specialized schools. There's a collection of many different types. And there are colleges that does not use any one of these 3 applications. So the differences. When you look at the Cal State applications, Cal State application is very, very easy to do. You can pretty much fill it out in about an hour. It does not require an essay. There are no teacher recs required. There's no counselor recs. Recs meaning recommendation forms are not required. And then you get to calculate your own GPA. This is something that's kind of odd about the Cal State application. When it comes to UC and the Common applications, and typically non-Common applications, they do not ask you what your GPA is. What they'll ask you to do is they'll ask you, what classes did you take in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade? What grades did you receive? And they'll use their own formula to figure out what your GPA is. But the Cal States are going to just directly ask you, what is your GPA? So if you calculate that incorrectly, you can have problems later on. So if you're not quite sure how to calculate your GPA, it's a good idea to go talk to your counselors to make sure that you calculate your GPA correctly. But Cal State is the only one that I'm aware of that does this. Cal States do not accept supplementary materials, and their applications are due on November 30th. The UC application requires 2 essays. There's no teacher or counselor recs that are necessary. You don't get to calculate your own GPA. You put in your classes, whether they were honors or AP, and the UCs will use their own formulas to figure out what your GPA looks like. They do not accept supplementary materials, like some of the private schools do. So let's say you have a letter from, like, President Obama saying you're a great guy or you're a great girl. You can't send that in. There is no system of, the UCs do not have a system of accepting materials like that. Okay, so they don't accept supplementary materials. Their application is also due on November 30th. The California State Schools, their application deadline is so early because of the number of applicants. They have to deal with so many applications. Their application deadline is earlier than what you'll notice with some of the other schools. The Common applications, the private schools, and some of the public schools that actually participate in the Common application requires 2 essays. Most of them, you'll see that asterisk. Some of them don't, but most of them will require that you send in teacher recommendation letters, and that your counselors have to send out a recommendation letter as well. Once again, you don't get to calculate your own GPA. They'll do that for you. And they do accept supplementary materials. So if you have a letter of recommendation that's outside of your school, or you have, let's say you're an artist, and you were able to exhibit in a museum or something like that. So you want to send them that picture of that thing that you were able to exhibit. You can send in things like that. CD of your music if you're musically gifted. things of that nature. You can send something in. Most of the schools in the Common Application, their applications are due in January 1st. So you have an extra month to fill out those applications. Now, I'm just going to go step by step so we can kind of get them out of the way. The Cal State application is basically accessible at csumentor.edu. And nowadays, the applications are all done online. There really isn't a thing called paper applications anymore, right? No more pencils and papers and stuff like that. It's all done online. The minimum GPA required to be qualified for to apply to a Cal State system is 2.0 weighted. Okay, so it's pretty low. Not low, but it's not very difficult to qualify to apply. It does not necessarily mean that if you have a 2.0 that you're going to get into the college of your choice, but now you are qualified to apply. But you also, while getting that 2.0, you have to fulfill the A through G requirement courses. I'm going to get to that in a bit. And you have to have taken either the SATs or the ACTs. There is an exam requirement that you do need to meet. Now, this is the Cal State application. Let's take a look at it. It's pretty standard. It's not very complicated. I'm just going to get to the application so you can see it. Can you guys all see this? I hope you can, no? Can you see it now? Okay. It's pretty standard. Basically, it will ask for your name, exactly when are you applying, and things of that nature. Are you a citizen? When were you born? Do you have a social security number? Basically, it's just standard things that they're going to be asking. And then towards the end, this is the part that I wanted to get to right here. They're going to be asking you for, where did you go to school? You'll be putting in your high school. If you attended any sort of, community colleges, you'll put that here. What did you do on your SATs, ACTs, TOEFL if you're an international student? And then they're going to ask you what classes did you take, right? And as you can see, if you look right here, Cal States and UCs basically use your 10th and 11th grades only to calculate your GPA. Okay, if you got straight A's in 9th grade, it's not going to help you. If you have straight C's in 9th grade, it's not going to hurt you, right? So they collect that data just for data purposes, but not for admission purposes. As you can see, if you look here, can you guys see this? I don't know if you can see it, but it says right here, high school GPA. I'll just zoom in on it. I hope you can see it now. It says high school GPA for all approved college prep A through G courses taken in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. So they don't count 9th. And then you have to calculate that, and then you have to put that GPA right here. It says, do you see this? It says spot, spot, spot. So you're going to write down 3.50, 3.49, or 2.7, whatever the case might be, and you're going to write that GPA down. So you have to calculate that on your own. So this is something different from the other applications. Okay. It's a pretty simple application, so I don't think this is very complicated. The Cal State application is pretty simple. Okay. All right. Now, I didn't want to spend too much time on the Cal State application because, like I said, you can do it in an hour. It doesn't take that long. There's no essays, right? You don't have to worry about essays. That's like the most stressful thing for most of you. So here's the UC application. It's available at www.universitycalifornia.edu/apply. Now, the minimum GPA required for UC admission is weighted 3.0. If you have a 2.9 and you apply, you're not going to be accepted. Typically, there's some extenuating circumstances that might actually get you admitted, but those are extremely rare. So if you look, so if you go to this website, they'll give you a way of figuring out whether you qualify to apply to a UC school or not. And look, basically, you can search for all of these. I didn't include all of these on your handouts because then it would have been like 50 pages long. But there's a website where you can go, and then you can put your GPA, your ACT, SAT scores, and it'll tell you whether you qualify to apply to the UC schools of your choice. So as you can see, you basically have to take your GPA, and then you have to come up with this weird, to see if you apply, you have to come up with this weird like composite UC score. They switched over to this like about 4 or 5 years ago. It's very awkward. What you have to do is you take your SAT scores, and then if your SAT scores in your critical reading and math was, let's say, 1,600, that becomes a UC score of 200. And then if your writing was an 800, that becomes a UC score of 100. So if you have a perfect 2,400 on your SATs, your UC score will be 300. Let's say on your critical reading and math, your score was, let's say, more reasonably, like, let's say, 1,200. If it was 1,200, that means your UC score would be 160. And then let's say your writing score was, let's say, a 600, then your UC score will be 80. Then when you combine those, your combined total UC score is 240. I know it's confusing. I don't know why they do it this way, but this is the way they do it. So your combined UC score will be a 240. If you have a 240, then you go to your GPA. If you want to be qualified to apply to UC school, with the total UC score of 240, what does your GPA have to be? So based on where your SATs fall and where your GPA fall, it kind of gives you a matrix of when you are qualified to apply to the UC system. Okay, so if you go to that website that I just showed you, www.universitycalifornia.edu/apply, you'll find it there. Okay, but this is one of the websites you should visit. Most of you guys are not going to have trouble being qualified to apply. The trouble will be getting into the school of your choice. Okay. That website is basically available through the application website. There will be a tab up there where you can tag that will get you to that website. And these are the A through G requirements that you guys have to fill. Most of you guys, once again, do not have trouble filling this. There's basically, you have to fill 2 years of history, social sciences. Let me just zoom in on this. It's kind of small. Okay. So you need 2 years of history, social science, 1 year of world history. And then for those of you, I mean, this is probably not the majority, but there's some of you who might have actually immigrated to America when you were in 9th grade or in 10th grade. So you have classes that you've taken in China, Korea, India, whatever the case might be, and you didn't fulfill all of these requirements. If that's you, there's ways of getting around these requirements by taking your SAT subject exams. So let's say, for example, you came to America in 10th grade, and most American high schools takes world history in 9th grade. So you get here in 10th grade, you didn't get a chance to take world history, but you don't want to take it during summer or something like that, then you can get this out of the way by taking the US history subject test and scoring 550 or above. There's these exam exam scores that will satisfy these A through G requirements. And there's no maximum. So it's not like you can only do one, you can do as many as you want. So you can be exempt from the English by taking the literature test or the writing test, so there's various ways of getting out of those requirements if you're kind of worried about that. For example, there's a foreign language requirement that you have to fill. If you go down here, language other than English. You basically have to take 2 years of foreign language, like Spanish, French, whatever the case might be, right? Some of you guys do not like foreign language. If you don't want to take it, you don't have to. You can actually get away. If let's say you speak Chinese, you can take Chinese with listening. If you score 520, you're exempt from the A through G requirement. If you speak Korean, you can take 500, or if you take anything here that you see, French, German, Hebrew, Italian, Latin. I don't think anybody speaks Latin, but Spanish. Any one of these exams, if you score those scores, you're now exempt from that A through G requirement. So it's an easy way of getting out of that requirement if you wanted to. Okay. And this is also available on that website. It's a link. Okay. You have to take your SAT reasoning or the ACT exam to qualify for your UC application. This is the UC application website. Yes, I want to open it. Okay. All right, so basically, what it will do here, it's just a website. It gives you all the different information that you need. You can check major deadlines. It tells you what you need to bring with you, what's required. So it's just the first site that you should go to do a checklist. It also has a checklist where you check off, I have this, I have that, I don't have this, I have that. So it's a very useful site to go to. So this is the checklist. And you can download this on your own if you wish. But it just gives you a quick, what is wrong with this thing? It gives you a quick idea as to what's required. And it has all the different majors for the different campuses. It's not unified. So all the majors that are offered in Berkeley are not necessarily the majors that are offered in Davis, Irvine. You need to go and check. So if you have a very particular type of a major that you want to major in, like business administration, that's not offered everywhere. You want to be an architect, that's not offered everywhere. So you need to go and check. The big ones like biology, English, psychology, those obviously are offered at all campuses. But some of the more specific ones, they're not, especially the engineering disciplines. So you want to check. And then if you go down, it'll give you a checklist, and then they have a little worksheet, okay? So those of you who are in 10th and 11th grade, you really want to look at this worksheet. This is going to be the part of the application, when you get to it, you are going to struggle the most with. The UC application is very, very simple. It's going to ask you, how did you do in school? How did you do in your exams, right? And what did you do in your spare time? And they're going to ask you things like this. And this is what everyone that I see at least struggles with. It's going to ask you, what activities and awards, did you have? So things like coursework other than A through G. Let's say you mistakenly took like cooking. Right? Cooking is not an A through G course. Some of you guys take it thinking it is, it's an easy A. It doesn't, it goes here. You can give it a name, you can describe what it was, but your grade will not help you in terms of your overall GPA. Educational preparation programs, most of you guys don't do these. Volunteer and community services, most of you guys have no trouble filling this up, right? Volunteerism, you guys do enough of it. Or some of you guys will start making things up like, you babysit your brother and sister, and you'll say that was volunteer work, whatever. But this is easy to fill up. Work experience, most of you guys don't work. This is actually quite good if you worked for a duration, not just for a couple of weeks, but let's say you worked at a place for like 2-3 years, right? Then it does look very, very positive. This is the part that you guys have trouble filling. They're going to ask you, what awards and honors have you earned during your 3 years of high school? I see things like, I have perfect attendance in 6th grade. Or, my mom gave me the Son of the Year award, or whatever. Or I was the Citizen of the Year at my church. None of that stuff, that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about academic awards, right? What have you garnered? When you guys get here, most of you have nothing to write. Volunteer work, oh yeah, library, hospital, the animal shelter, pharmacy, whatever, you guys just have a glutton of it. But when it comes to what type of recognition did you receive, there's nothing here. This is the hardest thing to fill up. And this is actually the most impactful thing, if you can have a lot here, right? So if you're gifted in what area, let's say you are good at drawing, right? With the advent of the internet, it is now very easy to enter competitions. You don't have to be physically there. Right? You can submit drawings online. You can submit drawings very, very easily. If you like to write, if you go online and type in like essay competitions, you know how many hits you'll get back? There's like hundreds of them, right? But it takes time to do. So if you're in 10th and 11th grade and you have a talent, you should foster it so when it comes to this part of the application, you have something to write. This is a very, very important part. Extracurricular activity, once again, most of you guys, the thing about extracurricular activities is that most of you guys do the exact same things. Piano, violin, cross country, basketball, FBLA, Key Club. It's all the same. So, I mean, you can imagine an admission officer that reads your applications, when they see the same applications over and over and over, and it's the same things over and over and over, it loses its impact. So if you can do an activity that's a little bit different, right, that's always a positive. Okay. So it goes through all the little steps that you need to go through. It tells you how to apply for financial aid as well, making changes to your application and whatnot, but this is something that you definitely want to see. And this is all available under that major website that's on your handout. Okay, now I'm going to show you a UC application. Now, the UC stopped making the PDF version of their applications accessible like 4 or 5 years ago. So you can't get to it. About 4 years ago, I downloaded a copy of it, so I still have it. But so it's the same, but basically this version of it is basically from a while ago. It's from 2008, 2009, so it's about 4 years old, but nothing's really changed in it. This is how the UC application looks. It's going to ask you things like your name, obviously, your address, where were you born, what ethnicity are you, things like that, right? And then it's going to ask you things like your family's income. It's going to ask you what does your parents do? So it's going to ask you your father's current occupation, your mother's current occupation, what level of formal education have they had? Look. It's going to ask you your parents' highest level of formal education. Right, so this is one of those things that's been happening as of late. The more educated your parents are, the harder time you're going to have getting into the UC schools. So if you don't get in, you can just blame your parents. But anyways, yeah. So if you can say that you're the first person to get into college, that's a big advantage. They're looking for students like you. Right? So, but if your father's a doctor and things like that, it just makes it a little bit more difficult. Yeah, I'm sorry, but that's reality. I'm sorry. So, and then it's going to ask you, where did you go to school? Those of you who take classes at, let's say, at community colleges, I get this question all the time. I took a class at a local community college. What do I do with these grades? Do I need to give it to my school? My school refuses to accept them or put them into, kind of consolidate the transcripts. If you go to a community college and you took a class there and you got a grade there, do not go to your counselors and tell them what you got. It's complete none of their business. So when it comes time for your application, this is what you're going to do. You're basically going to put your high school's name, right? Your high school name will go there first, and then whatever college you went to, that name will go in second. So you'll list everything. And whatever colleges you apply to will require that you send transcripts from both of those entities. So if you went to, let's say, we're in Cerritos, so let's say you went to Cerritos Community College or Fullerton Community College, whatever the case might be, then your high school and that community college would have to send 2 separate transcripts. They do not have to be consolidated. It's like, let's say you first went to a high school in Kentucky and you moved over here, right? The transcripts don't have to be consolidated. You can send 2 separate ones if you wanted to. Okay, and that's that, and then when you go down here, and this is the page that we were just looking at, honors and awards, coursework other than G, extracurricular activities, volunteer and community service, and then it's going to ask you for your grades, okay? It's going to ask you, what did you do, how many of these were honors or whatnot. 9th grade GPA, like I said, do not count, so don't worry about your 9th grade GPA. And then it's going to ask you for your test scores. And then, that's it. That's pretty much it. And at the end, it's going to say, where do you want these applications to go? You just check. Let's say your target is Irvine, Santa Barbara, Davis. So you check UC Irvine, UC Santa Barbara, Davis. But because it is so easy to do, most of you guys will go, what the heck, LA, Berkeley, San Diego. Or some of you guys will get very nervous. I want to be safe. I'm going to apply to River, so a lot of you guys end up applying to all 9 campuses, right? And it's expensive. Most of the students, well, it's my parents' money, I don't care, but it's expensive. So when you apply to all 9, it's going to cost around $700 for the application fee. So please take that into consideration. And then this is the part that I wanted to mention. In your online application, there's going to be a section at the end that's going to say additional comments. Do you see it up there, additional comments? This is where you mention oddities in your applications. So for example, you're a straight A student, but in your 10th grade year, you had 2 C's, right? Where you explain those 2 C's is not in your application essays. Okay, you explain that here. I was sick. I was a part of the varsity golf team. And for the first semester, I missed 20 days of period 5 and 6. And these 2 classes were my last 2 periods. Right? Golf is one of those sports where the tournaments are held from like 12 to 5 while there's sun out. So kids get pulled out of school. So they'll miss like 5th and 6th period. And that affects their grade. Something. Whatever happened, you had a family tragedy, you were sick, that goes there. Okay? You do not include that in your application essay. That's not where that's for. Okay. And like I said, you click Berkeley, Davis, and then you press send. It just gets sent. It's a very easy process. Okay? All right, that's the application. We're going to get into a little bit more deeply in a minute, but this is the Common Application. It's available at www.commonapp.org. It looks like this. Come on, go to it. Org. Okay, but it's a pretty simple website. There are 456 universities that are registered for the Common Application. And the advantages of the Common Application is that you can write one main application and you can send it to all 456. So you don't have to write the same application over and over again, just like the UC application. So it makes things a little bit more streamlined, and it makes it easier for the students to kind of get multiple applications out. The problem with Common Applications, UC applications, and stuff like that is that they all require counselor recommendation letters. So if you guys go to a public high school, your counselors are going to put a limit on that number, right? The local high school that I teach at Arcadia High School puts the private application numbers at 8. The counselors will not do more than 8 applications. So if you have plans, I'm going to apply to like 20 of these schools. Well, you're not going to be able to, because your counselors are not going to, basically allow that to occur, because if they did that, they would just be overrun with work. I'll show you what I mean. There's 456. Many schools no longer use their own applications. They just use the Common Application, like Harvard. It consists of a main application, and the main application looks like this. Now, this one just came out, so it has preview written on it. It's the 2012-2013 application. I looked at it, nothing's changed. Once again, it's going to ask for your name, your birth date, and things of that nature. Do you need financial aid? Do you not? Are you a citizen? And things of that nature. And it's going to ask you information, once again, about your parents, right? It's going to ask you, where did you go to school? Have you taken classes at a university? What are your test scores look like? What current courses are you taking? Have you received any honors, awards? Once again, they reserve 5-6 spaces. Most of you guys will not be able to fill that up. Do you have any extracurricular activities? Most of you guys have no trouble filling this up. And then you're going to have to write. And there's 2 essays for the Common App that you have to write. So that's what it looks like. It's pretty straightforward. But it's because of this. So the main application looks pretty simple. The reason why the Common Application is such a headache is because you have to write a main application and what? the supplements, right? Every school has different sets of supplements that they want from you, right? For example, some schools, their supplements is very, very simple. They only have an art supplement or like an athletic supplement or a music supplement. So if you're going to be an art major, you need to include something. And that's the gist of it. It doesn't go any more than that. Some schools, like you saw those booths out there, right? Claremont, Pomona, their supplements is actually more headachy than the actual application. If you apply to Pomona College, their supplement requires you write 5 extra essays. They're short essays, but 5 essays. And so that makes it very difficult. Like I said, it's a little bit more complicated than the UC or the Cal State application. It definitely requires more time and it requires a lot more planning. The supplements for the Common Apps look like this. You submit these online. Doing this by mail is not recommended because if you do this by mail, that means you need to give envelopes to your counselors and they can lose them, anything can happen to them, so having them do this online is preferred. You have to know what is in the supplements. You have to give, depending on certain schools. Most schools want you to send 1 teacher recommendation letter. Some schools want 2. So you have to look that up depending on where you want to go. But the teacher recommendation letters look like this. And I always find this to be very scary. So you write your name, this is you, this is where you live, and where you attend. And this is the teacher. The teacher will say, well, this is my name. I teach these subjects. I teach here. And then they're going to have to give a little bit of a background information. What do they do? How long have they taught? And things like that. And then they have to rate you. Okay? This is where it gets a little tricky. They're going to rate you based on below average, average, good, very good, excellent, outstanding, one of the top few I've encountered, right? And then way on the left, it says no basis. That means they have no idea, right? So look at these things that the Common App asks the teachers to rate you on. Academic achievement. Obviously, if you're, let's say, an A+ student, you're going to get either a good, very good, excellent. It's going to be good marks. Intellectual promise. I don't know what you're going to be doing in that class, but intellectual promise, quality of writing. This is where if you're, let's say, you went to your math teacher for the letter recommendation, obviously your math teacher is going to put what for quality of writing? No basis. He has no idea, right? That's fine. Creative original thought. Productive class discussions. So if you're one of those students that sit in the back, right, try to avoid like the gaze of the teacher, please don't look at me. If you're one of those, then this is not going to be very good. And then this one I've always found to be very odd. They ask the teachers to rate. It says, respect accorded by faculty. Do your teachers respect you? I know you respect your teachers, but do the teachers respect you? Isn't that weird, right? And discipline work habits. And look, this is a problem for most of the boys. And maturity. Are you mature? Okay, motivation, leadership, integrity, reaction to setbacks, concern for others, self-confidence, initiative, independence overall. Right? I think if most of you starting your 11th grade, right, when you go into your AP English classes or English classes, whatever classes you guys are going into, if you understand this is what your teacher is going to be evaluating you on, I think you should, if not, behave a little differently. Don't you think? Your teacher recommendation letters is one of the biggest things that the colleges look at. Right? If your teacher can say, concern for others, oh yeah, just excellent. Respect accorded by faculty. Yeah, I respect him. The other teachers respect him. He's very mature. I mean, look, is your teacher going to put in the recommendation letter that respect accorded by faculty is excellent, but your maturity is low? Are those going to go hand in hand? Of course not, right? So, yeah, this is what they're going to be asking your teachers to grade you upon. So they ask you to rate. And then they're going to ask in a paragraph form to evaluate you, and they're going to write a letter of recommendation. You don't get to see this, okay? You ask your teachers to do these. They do this in private. They send it out. You never, ever get to see it. I've had students come back to me. They went to a teacher and asked for a letter of recommendation, and this teacher sent him an email saying, "Why don't you write it for me? And I'll just send it." If one of your teachers ever says that to you, that's not the person you need to go to for your letter of recommendation. It's going to end up turning out to be useless. So, yeah, you're never going to see it. Okay, so the actions that you take in front of your instructors, your teachers, while you're in school, is going to determine how this turns out. And this is the school report. Look, this is why your counselors will not do more than a set number of applications. You see all these? School report, optional report, media report, final report. Do you know who has to file these? Your high school counselors, right? Now, not all schools require that you send all 4 of those forms. Most schools require you send either 2 or 3, right? But let's say one student applying to 8 private colleges, 3 forms, that's 24. Right? Let's say this high school counselor is in a high school of 3,000 students, and they're responsible for, let's say, 400 students. Right? Of those 400 students, let's say half of them apply to college. Of those 200 that applies to college, let's say half of them apply to private schools. Right? That's 100 times 24. That's 2,400 forms they have to send. They don't want to be sending these forms, right? That's when they limit it to 8. Right? So you have to check exactly how many schools they're going to allow you to apply to. So if you have plans of applying to many, many schools, that's probably not going to be happening. Okay, so this is what the reports look like. These aren't as important as the teacher recommendation letter because, honestly, if you go to a public high school, your relationship with your high school counselors is probably not very intimate, right? You just go when you sign up for classes and things like that. So when your high school counselors evaluate you and write things about you, guess what they look at when they do this? Yeah, they just look at your grades, your transcripts. If you're a poor student, right? So it's kind of very important that you do well in school in order for this to come out to be fine. But they're going to be asking you things like, they're going to ask, what are you taking? And the counselors are going to evaluate you once again. And look, this background information, the counselors puts it in, not you. If your school ranks, they're going to put down your class ranking. And then they'll be writing down your GPA. They're going to do it. You're not going to do it. Okay, so there are no mistakes. And then they'll also ask the counselor to rank you based on academic achievements, extracurricular accomplishments, personal qualities and character. These aren't not that important. And then they're going to have to write something describing you to the schools. So it's also not a bad idea to have a good relationship with your counselor if you can, because they are going to be doing this on your behalf. Okay? And then the optional report, mid-year report. Mid-year report obviously is after your first semester ends, right? After your first semester ends, some private schools require that you send a mid-year report. That means your first semester grades will go, right? Your first semester grades, when it comes to private institutions, do not typically help you, right? So if you have straight A's, it's not going to really help you. It can hurt you though, right? If you're a straight A student, you show a couple of C's in that mid-year report, it can definitely hurt you. So it is very crucial that if you're applying to private schools, your first semester grades are consistent with what you've been doing for the entire first 3 years of high school. If it shows fluctuations, that's when you start to get into trouble. Final report, obviously, that's going to be sent to them when everything is done. And then supplements. Look, I know some of you guys who are rising seniors, your parents have been pushing you to start your application, right? The application that you see online right now are not this year's applications, they're last year's. The common application becomes active in August 1st. So if you go to their website right now, you get this. You get a message saying that the 2011-2012 Common App Online is closed. The 2012-2013 Common App Online will launch on August 1st. Okay? However, when you go check this website on August 1st, and let's say you go, I want to apply to, let's say, I want to apply to Syracuse, or let's say Rutgers or Columbia, all these schools in New York, right? You want to apply to these schools. And then you click on their supplement. Don't be surprised if their supplements are not online until October. Okay, the colleges are notorious for dragging their feet. Okay, so just because the common application becomes available on August 1st does not mean that everything becomes available on August 1st. So if that occurs with the school that you want to apply to, be patient. It will come online eventually. Typically comes online by the end of August, but it's not uncommon for you to go to a school and wanting to fill out their supplement that you'll find that their supplement is still not available. Okay, so it's not common application's fault, it's just the school taking longer than they should. And look, just as long as we're here, one of the things that you guys are going to find with the common application is it's really poorly put together. Okay, their website is not very intuitive. It's really poorly put together. What you can do with the common application is you can set up multiple profiles. So one of the things that happens, some of you guys will apply early using the common application, and you send out the application early. Let's say you apply early to, let's say, I don't know, like let's say you apply early to Claremont or Yale, whatever, right? You apply early, and you send your application out, and when you go back to change anything on your other applications that you're going to be applying regularly, they're going to be locked. You're not going to be able to change anything. And then you're going to start panicking. Oh no, what do I do now? I need to change this and that. There's ways of setting up multiple profiles, okay? There's ways of setting up multiple profiles. So when that occurs and you get stuck and you don't know what to do, go talk to one of your elite directors and they'll show you how to do it. It's very easy to do, but it's hidden under all this clutter, right? You have to go through like 6, 7 different steps to create multiple profiles. And once you do create multiple profiles, you can create up to 15 profiles, right? Then you can use each profile for different colleges that you want to send to. So everything can be different if you wanted to. But that's there. So if you get stuck, if you send out something early, that's available for you. Okay. Now, as far as the non-common applications, there are over 4,800 universities in America. Right? That's a lot. UC schools are like 10, common applications like 500. So majority of the schools are not under one of these two systems. Okay, so if you want to apply to one of these, then you're out of luck. You're gonna have to fill out one of their own applications. Their essays will be probably different. You need to write a different essay. So it becomes a little bit more of a problem if you do it this way. It becomes more time-consuming as well. But if you really have a college that you want to go to, then you have to go through this route. It will be easier to see if your school is on the Common App instead of trying to get a list of schools that are not, since this is the majority. This is just a list of some of the schools that are not on the Common Application. Arizona State, Auburn, Ball State, Baylor, Brigham Young, Clemson, George Mason. Georgetown is not, Georgia Tech is not, James Madison is not, MIT is not, Penn State is not, Purdue, Rose-Hulman, Rutgers, and some of the state schools are not. So if you want to apply to MIT, if you want to apply to Georgetown, if you want to apply to, let's say, BYU, Clemson, you have to do your separate application. The biggest part of that is the essays are going to be different, right? Which means you need to write a whole new set of essays. Now, some of you who wants to apply early, there are 3 different types of early applications. You guys know what early is, right? Right? So there's early decision, early action, and there's this thing called restricted early action. Most early applications are due either November 1st, some, like Claremont Pomona, are due November 15th. In order for you to apply early, the last exam that you can take is the October exam, and that's really pushing it. But that's the very last one that you can take. Here are the differences of these three different types of early applications. ED, early decision, is binding. What that means is, let's say you apply to Columbia. Columbia uses the early decision process. So if you apply to Columbia early decision and you get in, you can't go anywhere else. You're legally bound. The schools get very aggressive when you get in early and you want to back out. They're not going to let you easily back out. So you're bound. If you go early action or restricted early action and you get in, you're not bound to that school. You can go anywhere else you want. However, when you apply early, it gives you if you apply early decision, typically that gives you the best chance of getting into the school. Because you're bound and they know that when they accept you, you're going to come, right? You have a much greater chance of getting into the university. So you'll notice if you go and visit some of these college websites, there are schools where their regular admission percentage is about 20%, and their early decision percentage is like 55%. So if you apply regularly to their school, out of 100 students, only 20 gets in. But if you apply early decision, like 55 out of 100 gets in. So it gives you a much, much better chance of getting into the school if you apply early decision. Early action gives you the least chance because it's completely non-binding. Restricted early action gives you somewhere in the middle. So this is what's happening if you look at the second thing there. If you apply early decision, you can apply to any college that offers early action. So if you apply early decision to Columbia, you can apply to any school that offers non-restricted early action. Does that make sense? Right? If you apply early action, you can apply to any college that's offering ED, early decision, or other early action. Now, some restricted early action schools will allow you to apply to other schools early, but it's really rare. Okay, so there's restrictions that apply. If you apply to a school that has restricted early action, then it says you can apply to other colleges that are offering just regular early action, but there's some restrictions, but you can't apply early decision or other restricted early actions. Look, here's a chart for it that College Board produces. This is from College Board, so you can kind of see what they're doing here. Gosh, this projector isn't very crisp. But it basically says if you apply early decision to any college, you cannot apply early decision anywhere else, nor restricted early action anywhere else. But you can apply early action to any college if you applied ED. And this is available through the Common App website. If you go to commonapp.org and you go to decision plan rules, you'll see it. It's one of their downloads. Okay, so it'll kind of give you an idea as to if I apply early decision, where else can I apply? Okay, and then look, we can't talk about applications without talking about the essays. All other parts of the application is just you inputting data, right? You put in your grades, your address, it's simple. This is the most important part. The reality is, when you apply to colleges, I think most college campuses and college application officers would love to meet every single one of you individually, right? Get to know you, spend some time with you, so they know who you are, but they can't. They're overrun by applications. So the only real way for them to get to know you is through these essays. So this is one of the most important factors of your application. And this is what the essays look like. Cal State, like I said, requires no essays. UC is required 2. Those 2 essays must total no more than 1,000 words. Okay, no more than 1,000 words. And each essay can't be less than 250 words. So you can break them right in the middle, 450, 450, or 300 and 600, whatever the case might be, right? But you can't write more than 1,000 words. When it comes to the common applications, you have 2 essays, One of them is bigger than the other, okay? But they have to be between 250 to 500 words. The non-common, you need to check because they're all a little different. This is the UC prompt. And look, just looking at these ahead of time helps. This is what they're going to ask you to write on. Freshman application prompt. If you're an incoming freshman, you have to write this essay. Describe the world you come from, for example, your family, community, or school, and tell us how your world has shaped your dreams and aspirations. How many of you guys have dreams and aspirations? I hope so. And I hope your dream is not to go home tonight and play games in your computer or, things like that, right? The problem is a lot of you guys are so academically focused when it comes to kind of realizing, why am I doing this? What am I doing this for? A lot of the students that I see in my office, they can't even figure out what major they want to be. If I ask, what college you want to go to, I don't know. I want to get into the best school that I can get into. Okay, well, what major do you want to major in when you get into college? I don't know. If you can't decide what major you want to be, right? Because shouldn't your majors basically focus towards your dreams and your aspirations, right? Wouldn't that make sense? If you talk to your kids and say, what major do you want to major in? You'll be so surprised. They're completely lost, right? Look, a lot of you guys will spend 5-6 hours a day studying for the SATs, or 5-6 hours a day in school doing homework, activities, or whatever, right? How many of you guys have actually sat down with your parents and actively try to figure out, what do I want to do with myself in the future? Have you guys sat in a dinner table and said, look, these are my qualities, this is what I'm interested in, I want to do this? That talk rarely gets made, right? I mean, that's something that you guys should be doing. Look at this essay. What are you guys going to write? What is my dreams and aspirations? My dream is to get into your school. Please make my dream come true. I mean, is that what your essay is going to be about? Right? They want something a little bit more deeper than that. And hopefully you guys can find that. And look at this second essay prompt. Tell us about a personal quality, talent, accomplishment, contribution, or experience that is important to you. What about this quality or accomplishment makes you proud, and how does it relate to the person you are? These are grown-up questions. I think most of us, most of the parents here, when you're confronted with this, even after a lifetime of experiences, these are very, very hard to write. When you get a bunch of 16, 17, 18-year-olds to write on these two prompts, they struggle. They don't know what to do with themselves, right? It is very important that you try to get your kids immersed in things that they love to do. It doesn't necessarily have to be academic, right? Because later on, when they have to write stuff like this, you know what they write about? Some of the essays that we have to read, it's kind of sad. They write about, accomplishments. First semester of my sophomore year, I was in AP biology. It was really hard. I got a B-. So the second semester, I studied really hard. And I got an A in the second semester. I'm so proud of myself. That's the extent of their experiences. It doesn't go any further than that. It's just their school, and that's it. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but if you have the opportunity, you want to kind of expand outside of that if possible. And this is the common application essay prompt. It's just right here. Come on, get to it. Oh no, I passed it. Okay, here it is. It says, please, what happened here? Oh, there's lag, sorry. Okay, there it is. Okay, come on, stop lagging. Okay, all right. It'll show up in a bit. It's lagging. Okay, there it is. It says, please briefly elaborate on one of your extracurricular activities or work experience in the space below. Pretty simple. If you're involved in band, whatever, this is what you write about. And underneath, it's gonna give you 6 choices. You see those little black dots, right? Those are 6 choices. You get to pick one, right? You get to pick one. The essay prompts are: evaluate a significant experience, achievement, risk you have taken, or ethical dilemma you have faced and its impact on you. Most of you guys cannot write on this particular essay prompt, okay? The second one: discuss some issue of personal, local, national, or international concern and its importance to you. Do you guys know who the Secretary of State of the United States is? Right? What's the Secretary of State? What is that? Right? So, I mean, things of that concern. You know, what is happening in the world today? You know, things of that nature. They're going to be asking you questions like that. Indicate a person who has had a significant influence on you and describe that influence. Describe a character in fiction. So these are basically very, very difficult essay prompts. Right? You should look at these early and see if you can somehow prepare yourselves to be able to answer these. And they're all available. You can go and look at them right now if you wish. Now, look, Cal State applications become available on October 1st. You can't write on them right now even if you want to, right? They become available on October 1st. If you are targeting the Cal State system, there are some issues. You know, there's a huge budget cut that's coming educationally, and the Cal State system will be hit the hardest. So if you're planning to go to a Cal State school, you better rate. It's no longer the case of, oh, it's easy to get into. It's not that simple anymore. UC applications become available online on October 1st. The common applications become available online August 1st. Most applications are not rolling. What that means is, you see when the UC applications become online on October 1st, there's going to be some of your parents that's going to say, finish it now. The earlier you do it, the better the chances. No. Most colleges do a non-rolling application process. What that basically means, whether yours was the first one to come in on time or the last one to come in on time, it does not make any difference whatsoever. Okay, so make sure you work on these with enough time and get them completely done and then send them in. Okay, don't rush them. Okay. Do I have time? 2 minutes? Okay, all right. One more thing, look, selecting a correct major, if you don't know what you want to do with the rest of your life, it's okay. You're 16, 17, 18, I mean, when I was 16, 17, 18, actually I don't remember anymore, but anyways, but most majors, when you get in, you can change your major with no trouble, so don't worry if you can't think of anything, just pick something big. Like, I was gonna get into all of this, but we're kind of running out of time. I just want to say one thing when you pick majors. If you want to become an engineer, you better pick engineering as a major. You guys are all aware that when you apply to colleges and you apply as an engineering major, your chances of getting in is very, very small. Right? For example, let's say you apply to UC Berkeley. You're a psychology major versus you apply to UC Berkeley and you're an electrical engineering major. Who's going to get in? The psych major is going to have an advantage, right? Because engineering is impacted, right? So you go, I'm going to become a psychologist. I'm going to go in as a psych major and I'm going to transfer out to the engineering department. That is not going to happen. Transferring into the School of Engineering for most colleges, they put up so many walls and obstacles, it's literally impossible. Okay, so it's better for you to sacrifice the name of the school. I know some of you guys, I love that sweater, you know, I want to wear that sweater. It's worth it not to wear that sweater and make sure you're in the major that you really want to be in. Okay, so if you want to pursue engineering, it is better for you to go to a lesser school as an engineering major than it is for you to get into a higher school as a non-engineering major and hope to transfer into that major, because it's going to be very, very difficult. Okay. All right. Take a breath. I need to take a breath, I'm sorry. It's going to be fine. All right, if you have any questions about anything, please contact your local elite directors or assistant directors. They'll be able to answer your questions. And I'm sorry, good luck, and may the force be with you. Okay, bye.